Good morning, good afternoon, good evening if you're doing some night baking, this is going to take you a very long time if you're starting at night. I'm going to warn you right now. Today we are going to be doing strawberry shortcake. My nephew saw the video yesterday, decided to immediately make his own video and tell me I need strawberry shortcake. Now normally when I make this I don't do it from scratch because angel food cake is a nightmare and it takes a lot of egg whites, but I love him and he's far away, so I figured I could do this for him at least once. So if you've got about 4 hours to spare and all the ingredients and all of the equipment, then this will be fun. The hardest part is going to be making the cake, and the rest of it's super easy. So to start, let's get a rundown. This right here is a tube pan, not a bundt pan, a tube pan. Just notice how it's got these little legs? That's going to help it stand up on itself later on. So we're going to do a quick rundown of all the ingredients. We're going to need 1 3/4 of a cup of sugar, just plain sugar. We're going to need 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of that dreaded cake flour, which I just happen to have laying around. But it did say expired a couple months ago. I don't know what that means for flour, so this may or may not work, and this video may not get uploaded. We'll find out. We're also going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're going to need 12 of your egg whites. It says room temperature. I've never had an issue with that before, but if you want, you can just start cracking that before you do anything else, and then just let it sit for a little while, and it'll be ready by the time you get to that point. You're going to need 1 1/2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. You're also going to need 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla, which again, because I'm using the Mexican vanilla, I'm going to cut that in half. And then later on, we're going to fill it with some fresh strawberries. And we're also going to make our very own whipping cream, or whipped cream. So you're going to need heavy whipping cream. I have only a pint of it, but we'll make it work. And powdered sugar. I would definitely recommend having a stand-up mixer for this and a food processor. You can use a hand beater if you want. It'll just take a little bit longer, but it'll be fine. So let's get started. You're going to want to go ahead and preheat your oven to 325, which I already did, and have your oven rack set kind of in the middle so you have plenty of room for your cake to rise without bumping it. Now, I've never done this before in a recipe, but it says it's telling me to do it, so I'm going to do it. We're going to pour all of our sugar into the processor. And it says, it doesn't really give you a time limit. It says to pulse it until it's light and aerated, and this will help later on add all the air to your mixture. So I'm going to do that fancy thing where I'm going to run this. It's going to take forever for me, but I'm going to fast forward it later on, hopefully for you, so you don't have to sit there and watch me do this for God knows how long. So let's do it. Okay. I don't think that's it. I'm gonna keep going. I think I just made powdered sugar, but whatever. I don't know. It looks really light. It's more powdery and fine than it was with the granulated sugar, so let's just say that's good enough, because I don't know. This is what happens when you read recipes off the internet and don't do it first. I don't care. Alright, so now it wants you to remove a cup's worth of this, and I guess set it aside somewhere. We're going to use it later on. Good enough. And pop the rest and keep it in there. Put your blade back in. Set that aside. Now we're going to add, we're going to put our cake flour in here now. And we're also going to add the salt, which is right here. Sorry, I wrote this down earlier. Don't really know what I'm doing. We're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon. Now this one, it only says to do it about 5 to 10 times on pulse, just to kind of bring it all together and make it nice and fluffy, so that'll be real easy. Okay. All right, now, the fun part. Let's get that out of the way. We are going to do the whipping of the egg whites, which I have this wrapped around. Let's do that. So the trick with egg whites is to make sure that there's not a single drop of egg yolk or any sort of fat touching the bowl that you both put the egg whites in and that you're going to whip it in. It needs to be completely clean and dry. This is going to help your egg whites rise and be really fluffy. And I'd hate for us to waste all these egg whites, especially right now, because I ain't going back to the store. I had an old man yell at me today, telling me it was all fake, so, you know, it's going great. So, egg whites. Now we're going to add our tartar. Tartar is a chemical reagent that's going to help it rise. And that was 1.5 teaspoons, just to remind you. And half. Alright. Now you got your whisk attachment, which you cannot see. There you go. You got your whisk attachment. Now we're going to whip this on medium-low, and we're basically looking to just get it really foamy, so only do it for about a minute. Alright, so, like I said, foamy. Look up. Okay. I don't know if we can see that very well. Again, it's not... foams? Yeah, foams. So it kind of looks like you add soap and it's all soapy looking. That's what you're looking for. Now at this point, we're going to crank it up to medium-high, and we're going to grab... where was it? The extra sugar that we set aside earlier, and we're going to gradually, it's something in my eyeball, hold on. That got weird. Alright, anyway, so we're going to add all of that sugar in. I don't want to keep blocking it. We're going to crank it up to medium-high, and only add a little bit of sugar at a time, and still to give it time to get aerated, basically. Okay. So at this point, we're just going to let it whisk for a good long while on that medium-high, and we're basically looking for soft peaks, which I will show you what it looks like. We're not looking for the Dairy Queen swirl that they show you, because that's going to mean high peaks. It's too stiff. It's going to be nice and soft, where it almost holds itself up, but it does collapse after a second. So I'm just going to let this go for a while. Okay, I had to turn the phone off for a second. Alright, so let it go. I actually cranked it up to high because I got tired of waiting. This is soft peaks. You see it kind of holds itself up for a second and loops back to where it was. Alright, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so now we're going to add that vanilla to it, which again was 1.5 teaspoons, but I'm just going to add about 1 because I do kind of want it vanilla-y. I'm going to put it back on for just a second. We don't want to whip this a lot, just enough to get that vanilla incorporated. That's good. Alright, now this is a part I really hate. Now that we have our egg whites all nice and fluffy, we have all of our ingredients in. We're gonna do a thing called folding, which again, I hate. Now, the trick with folding is you don't want to dump all of this in at the same time. You want to take this in about intervals of 3, which is what we're going to do. So you're going to pour a third of it in, just like that. Yeah, maybe a bit more. I'm going to use that rubber spatula I was showing y'all last time. Now, it's going to be kind of like a scooping motion. So I'm going to scoop from the bottom, shake up all the dry bits up to the top, and then fold it in. And you're just going to keep doing that until your hand falls off. Like that. Like that. You really want to go from the bottom so that you're completely incorporating that in. Now you don't want to do this till it's completely mixed. The idea is to keep as much air in this as you possibly can. It's going to deflate a little bit because you are working with it, but just keep shaking that powder to the top until it's almost completely gone, and then add your next third. Just like that. And keep going. Shake, shake, shake. I'm not going to sing the song that you're thinking of. Could have chosen a lot of things to do to keep me busy, and random YouTube karaoke was not on that list. You're welcome. Alright. Looking good. Dump the last of it in. I'm going to fold that last bit. Again, don't overwork this. But also, you don't want any dry patches either, so when you think you're done, do a quick once over, maybe twice, just to make sure you got it all from the bottom. All the dry pockets are gone. I think we're good. Okay, now, make sure the inside part like this is on the inside, not the outside. Believe it or not, when I was young and did this for the very first time, I didn't think about that. It did not go well. I had a big mess to clean up and wasted a lot of product. So we're going to just gently, without whipping or beating our mixture that we just spent so much time aerating, we're going to pour it into the pan. Try to avoid getting it all over the center part. Again, make sure you really scrape all that goodness out. We need every ounce of it. Alright, now the recipe I found says to shimmy. I don't know, but we're just going to do this a little bit because you don't want to knock it. That'll knock all your air out, but this will help kind of even out your thing. So you just see it's nice and fluffy and white like that, right? Now, have your oven already ready to go. We're going to pop this in. It says to do it for about 40 to 45 minutes, but halfway through it, we are going to rotate the whole pan around. Try to do this without bumping or shaking it as much as you can, because again, you're going to knock all that air out. And we're basically looking for it to rise and be nice and springy. Y'all know what an angel food cake, and it's going to be really pretty and golden, and I will check back in on that. And I will spare you from putting it in the oven so we don't have to hear my oven door again, okay? See you soon. Back. So, I went ahead and pulled it out of the oven. Basically what we're looking for is that golden top. It's going to have some cracks on it, kind of like the banana bread yesterday. When you poke it with a toothpick, it should become completely clean. Now, with this particular recipe, it told me to cool it on the upside down on a wire baking rack. I'm not going to do that because you're not supposed to. So the whole point of these little feet thingies is that you can rest it upside down just on the counter like that, or you can do it the old school way. And cool it on a wine bottle, just like that. Now this is why I was talking about earlier how this is going to take 4 hours, because this needs to cool for 3 whole hours before you can even try to take it out of this pan. So, you got plenty of time to spare, go do something else for a while, but don't forget about this. And in 3 hours I will show you how to take it out, and then we will make some fun whipped cream and do some strawberries and hopefully eat it. Also, my flour worked out, not bad. Okay, and we are back. I went ahead and took my contacts out because I got something weird in my eye and it hurt for like 3 hours. So, we're gonna go ahead and start with taking the cake out of the pan. It's been sitting up. It looks pretty good. The whole point of having it upside down like that is so that it doesn't sink in on itself and lose all of that air. So now that it's had time to settle, all we're gonna do is take a simple butter knife, something not serrated so you don't cut it, and we're just gonna ease around the pan. Just like that. And then, hopefully, it should come out. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to work around the middle real quick just to keep it from falling apart. Hold on. I'm gonna run along the bottom. See how. There we go. Didn't think that was gonna work for a second. That would have been embarrassing. All right, so here we go. Look how nice and tall and not flat, not squashed. Perfect. Hopefully it worked out for you guys too. So we are going to simply cut straight into the middle. It's okay if it's not perfect. It's your cake, who cares? And you don't have to have a cake stand for this to work. You could use whatever works for you. So now that we have the top half, we're going to pinch out the center, basically making a well. All right, there we go. So I went ahead and sliced up my strawberries earlier. Make sure you washed them first, especially right now because people are nasty. We're going to fill it with as much strawberries as we can. Because what would a strawberry shortcake be without all the delicious strawberries? By the way, I put Animal Crossing on pause for you guys. You're welcome. Saw a certain friend's town earlier. It was adorable and I'm jealous. Why does she get roses and I get hyacinth? Like anybody wants that. Would have stolen them if it let me. Alright. Looking pretty nice and full. There we go. So now we're going to make our fresh whipped cream. Oh my god. That turned out great, if I do say so myself. Alright. Like I said, I got a pint. I'm just going to go ahead and pour the whole thing in here, because the more you have to work with, the better. And who doesn't love whipped cream? Got, again, a super clean bowl and whisk. And the cream is nice and cool. I do not measure when I'm making buttercream or whipped cream. So I'm just going to eyeball it. Alright, so I'm going to start off a little bit slow so I don't make a mess, and then I'm going to whip it up on high after I plug it in. Yoink. Okay. And then we're just going to whip it until you know what whipped cream's supposed to look like. pretty good. Let's take a look. Oh yeah. So you want it to be super stiff, be able to hold itself up just like that, because it makes it easier for you to work with and won't slide off your cake as you're decorating. So I have a little palette knife offset, but you use whatever you have or whatever you prefer. Not everybody likes the same thing. I'm just going to put a little bit in the center to give it kind of more of a cream filling. Not a lot, because you want to save the rest for the outside. Hopefully we have enough. If not, I think I have some Ready Whip in the fridge. Alright, so we're going to put our hat back on. There we go. Doesn't matter if it's even or not. Looks good to me. Alright, now we don't need this to be perfect again, because it's whipped cream, and whipped cream does not serve as the best coating, icing or frosting or whatever you want to call it. So we're just going to start off with enough on the top to cover, because right now we just want to really make sure we have enough to cover the entire cake before we start perfecting it. So just get some on your palette, spatula, and then you're just going to start putting some on the side like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but be generous with it, because the more the merrier. We're going to use this whole bowl. And just keep going until it's completely coated. Now I did not use vanilla in my whipped cream, because the cake itself plus the strawberries is pretty darn sweet, but you're welcome to add a couple drops. I wouldn't do more than half a teaspoon. Unless you like to party, and then you do whatever you want. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of clean up the sides a little bit. It's okay if the cake's showing. Like I said, I don't have that much, so it's not going to be perfect. So kind of get your edges a little cleaned up. And I'm going to do what I call the Martha Stewart swirls. I'm kind of just going to work the knife or the spatula or whatever until you get this fun pattern. You can do waves to get a good texture. If you have a comb that you use for cakes, you could do that and have like the cool edges on the side. It doesn't really matter, because it's going to be messy. It's whipped cream. It's not going to be perfect. So, you know, it looks homemade, but who cares? We're going to eat it in like a minute, so we'll worry about having that perfect cake look when we do something that requires it. So. And then I saved 3 strawberries to do a little bloop. And there you go. I mean, it's not fancy, but it tastes really good, and that's all that matters. So I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, the hardest part is getting that folding method perfect, or at least good enough. Make sure there's no pockets of the powder mix, and make sure you still have lots of air. Don't use any spray on that pan, or it's going to stick and turn into a hockey puck. But you know, this is going to be really good, because today actually is my 2-year wedding anniversary with my husband. So, you know, even though we got a bunch of banana bread and fudge at home, this is going to be a really good dessert. Yeah, so thank you for the suggestion, Daniel. I think tomorrow I got a lot of butter. I'm probably going to do some buttercream roses, so I don't have to bake anything, because I got a lot of desserts at home right now. So I hope you all give it a try. Let me know how it is. And from John and I, bye.